Right then, gather round you lot and listen to this chilling tale. It's a proper spooky one, this, based on something that actually happened, or so the story goes. Now this account comes to us, courtesy of a chap named Victor Manning, a writer of horror, you see. He penned this story, and it's a real nail-biter, it is. Our story centers around a fella named Richard and a woman named Sarah. They were deeply in love, those two. But sadly, Sarah passed away. Richard was absolutely devastated, completely heartbroken. He blamed himself, you see, because Sarah had been convinced she was being possessed by some kind of negative energy. She'd told Richard countless times that she felt like something was controlling her, but Richard, bless his cotton socks, had always brushed it off as nonsense. He couldn't believe in such things in this day and age. Sarah's condition worsened, mind you. She saw doctors, was in and out of hospital, lost weight, something awful. Richard, though, he just thought it was some medical problem. He put her in the best hospital in their city, promising her he'd be there for her, look after her. But when Sarah finally succumbed, Richard wasn't by her side. That guilt ate away at him. It truly did. Completely lost without Sarah, Richard turned to the bottle. Couldn't sleep a wink at night. Couldn't face work. All he had were his memories of Sarah and this crushing loneliness. He was desperate, utterly desperate to see Sarah again, to tell her she'd been right all along, to tell her how much he loved her and how much he regretted not believing her. One dreary afternoon, Richard was sat in his flat, scrolling through social media, just trying to distract himself from the misery. Then, he stumbled upon an article. The headline grabbed his attention right away. The Headless Ghost of Blackwood Canyon Highway. Nightmares that make your dreams come true. Intrigued, Richard clicked on the link. It took him to a rather dodgy-looking website filled with adverts. The article posed a question. Have you ever lost someone you loved dearly? Would you give anything to speak to them one last time? Are there things you left unsaid? It went on to claim that if you were searching for a way to communicate with a deceased loved one, your search was over. The article claimed to have a method, a way to speak to those who had passed, and that way, according to the website, was Blackwood Canyon Highway. Apparently, this stretch of road in America was notorious for accidents and haunted by all sorts of nasty spirits. But the most prominent of these was the headless ghost of a woman. This particular ghost, the article asserted, had the power to grant your deepest desire, to speak with your departed loved one one last time. The website detailed a specific method for this encounter. It explained that when you meet the headless ghost of Blackwood Canyon, it doesn't just kill you outright. No, it supposedly takes the form of the person you most long to see in your final moments, allowing you to speak with them. Now Richard, being in such a state of grief, thought to himself, does this mean I have to die to speak to Sarah? But the article reassured him that death wasn't always the outcome. There were ways, it claimed, to fulfill your desire and leave Blackwood Canyon alive. This method, the article stated, had been developed through numerous trials and errors. It was a foolproof method, guaranteed to get you out alive and allow you to speak with your loved one. However, it came with a stark warning. There was absolutely no room for error. One tiny mistake, and your chances of survival plummeted to zero. This was a vengeful spirit, the article warned, one that showed no mercy if it sensed your intentions. If it figured out your plan, your death was 100% certain. Richard stopped reading for a moment, a wave of disbelief washing over him. Have I really become this superstitious? He wondered. Am I actually considering believing this utter rubbish? He couldn't quite believe what he was reading. This talk of headless ghosts and fulfilling desires. It all sounded like some made-up legend. But then, that yearning in his heart, that desperate need to see Sarah again, it whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the only way. So, he decided to keep reading, to see what this so-called method entailed before dismissing it entirely. He didn't hold out much hope, mind you, but a part of him clung to the possibility. Richard continued to read the instructions. The website stressed the importance of memorizing every single step, repeating them over and over until they were ingrained in his mind. Remember, it warned, even a 1% error could lead to certain death. Read the instructions carefully, very carefully. So, Richard meticulously went through the listed instructions. The first point was crucial. You had to travel on 4 wheels, a car specifically. Absolutely no motorbikes. If you went on a bike, the article stated bluntly, your death was guaranteed. Secondly, the ideal time to encounter the headless ghost at Blackwood Canyon Highway, if you wish to meet her, was between midnight and 3 in the morning. This was supposedly when most sightings and encounters had occurred. Thirdly, while driving, all the car windows had to be rolled down, and all the doors had to be unlocked. This had to be the case regardless of the weather, even if it was pouring with rain. If you truly wanted to meet the ghost, the windows had to be down. The fourth point was particularly important. The car's indicator had to be pointing towards the valley. Blackwood Canyon Highway, you see, had mountains on one side and a steep valley on the other. The indicator had to suggest you were about to drive straight into the valley. Next, you had to turn on the car radio and switch to the AM band. No specific station was to be tuned in. Just leave it on AM with the volume slightly raised. You had to listen to the static and the general noise. Additionally, every 500 meters you had to slow down the car. Not stop it completely, just slow it down. And then, before accelerating again, you had to honk the horn for 5 seconds. This process had to be repeated every 500 meters until you saw the headless ghost for the first time. As soon as you spotted the woman, you were absolutely not to stop the car. If you saw her, you simply had to drive past. Stopping was game over. You weren't even supposed to look directly at her, just drive on. Now, after driving about a kilometer past the initial sighting, you would supposedly encounter her again. This time, if you wanted to proceed, you need to stop the car when you saw her. But here's the catch. She had to appear on the road in front of you. You couldn't go looking for her. If you spotted her anywhere else, you would die. If she walked onto the road and stopped in front of your car, then you had to stop. After that, you were not to look at her. You could even turn your rearview mirror away if you wanted, though it wasn't strictly necessary. When she reached your car, she would speak to you. So you had to stop the car and wait. There was another crucial instruction. You had to have a can of cola and a clean, empty glass with you as soon as the car door opened and closed, signifying she had entered. You had to silently pour the cola into the glass and offer it to her. Once she took the glass, the process was complete. She had come to you. After this point, the article claimed there were no more rules. Every person's experience was different, and everything depended on your luck and the ghost's mood. Whether you survived or not was entirely up to chance. The article concluded by wishing good luck and reiterating the extreme danger of even the slightest mistake. Could this really be possible? Richard wondered, his mind racing. Could this actually work? He knew it sounded utterly ridiculous, like some elaborate hoax to drive traffic to the website. But despite his skepticism, that tiny spark of hope, that desperate longing to see Sarah, wouldn't be extinguished. He thought to himself, what if it's true? What if this is the only way I can speak to Sarah, tell her how sorry I am, how much I loved her? That overwhelming desire to connect with her in any way possible made Richard decide to go through with the process. He grabbed a pen and paper and meticulously wrote down all the instructions, making sure he understood each and every point. Richard was determined to try this, to prepare himself mentally for what lay ahead. Over the next 3 weeks, Richard revisited the website countless times, rereading the rules, trying to commit them to memory. He still had moments of doubt, thinking it was all nonsense. But the pull to see Sarah was too strong to ignore. Finally, he decided he was ready. One evening, around 5 o'clock, Richard set off in his car. He was living in Phoenix at the time, and the drive to Blackwood Canyon was roughly a 6-hour journey. He left as dusk was settling, the city lights fading behind him as he joined the highway. By the time he was nearing Blackwood Canyon, it was completely dark. He had his GPS set, the blue line on the map guiding him towards his destination. About 5 miles before reaching the canyon, Richard pulled over to grab some dinner. As he ate, his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and anxieties. He couldn't shake the feeling that what he was about to do was utterly insane, but the hope of seeing Sarah kept him going. After finishing his meal, Richard realized he still had a couple of hours before midnight. He decided to try and get some rest, reclining his seat and closing his eyes, but sleep was elusive. His mind was too active, filled with questions and doubts. Was he really going to chase after ghosts? Could any good come of this? Would he actually be able to speak to Sarah? He just didn't know. But then, another thought crept in. What if it's real? What if I can actually see Sarah? He'd come this far, he reasoned. He couldn't turn back now. He had to try. He had to see if he could get a chance to speak to Nana. Lost in his thoughts, the time slowly ticked by. Richard checked his watch. It was midnight. He started his car and pulled back onto the highway. He reset his GPS, the blue line now indicating he was within the Blackwood Canyon area. When the line disappeared, signifying he had reached his destination, he pulled over. It was pitch black, a thick fog hanging in the air. There was no one else around, no other cars, just silence and darkness. Richard took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He started the car again, making sure he had the can of cola and the empty glass within easy reach. He reset his car's odometer to 0 at the exact spot where he had stopped. He rolled down all the windows, unlocked all the doors, and switched the radio to the AM band. Then he began to drive. As he pulled away, he flicked on his left indicator, pointing it towards the dark abyss of the valley. He started the process. 500 meters. He slowed down, honked the horn for 5 long seconds, and then accelerated again. His eyes scanned the deserted road ahead. Nothing. No other cars, no signs of life. Just him and the empty highway. He reached the next 500-meter mark. Slow down, honk, speed up. He repeated this process, kilometer after kilometer. Nothing. Richard started to feel a sense of foolishness creeping in. This is ridiculous, he thought. I'm wasting my time. This website was just a load of rubbish. But then, that nagging voice inside him whispered, just be patient, keep going. He glanced out of the window, the cold night air chilling his skin. His eyes searched the darkness, desperately hoping for some sign. None. Her 500 meters. Slow down, honk. Accelerate. Still nothing. He reached the next marker, slowing down, preparing to honk and speed up. But just as he was about to accelerate, the car radio erupted in a strange, high-pitched whine, like a kettle boiling over. Richard's heart skipped a beat. He knew somehow that something was nearby. He peered through the fog and then he saw her. Standing by the side of the road, a figure in a dark blue dress, and she had no head. Richard caught a fleeting glimpse and then sped past, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. A shiver ran down his spine. He'd actually seen her, the headless woman. His mind raced. This can't be real, he thought. Am I dreaming? He'd actually seen the headless ghost. And now all the instructions he had so carefully memorized seemed to have vanished from his mind. What do I do? Where do I go? Do I stop? Don't I stop? He couldn't remember. The first time you saw her, you weren't supposed to stop, just drive past. But his mind was a blank. He'd seen something truly terrifying with his own eyes. He tried to compose himself, to recall the next steps. When do I slow down again? When do I stop? 500 meters, then another kilometer. He couldn't quite remember the exact distances. He took a deep breath and tried to focus. He remembered that she would appear again within a kilometer. So, he drove on, his eyes scanning the road ahead. After what felt like an eternity, he saw her again. This time she was standing almost in the middle of the road, near a large oak tree. Richard's wish had come true. The headless woman, the one he believed could lead him to Sarah, was standing right in front of him. Now came the crucial part. What was he supposed to do? He slowly brought the car to a halt, not daring to look directly at her, only focusing on her torso, as the instructions had specified. As the car rolled to a stop, 1,000 questions flooded his mind. Do I open the door? Will she open it herself? Will she get in? Is she going to hurt me? He was frozen, unsure of what to do next. Then, suddenly, the back passenger door swung open. A blast of icy cold air filled the car and the door slammed shut again. Richard knew she was inside. He quickly grabbed the can of cola, poured it into the glass without looking back, and held it out towards the back seat. Please, he stammered. Have some. He couldn't see if she took it. His mind was racing. Had he done everything right? He glanced in the rearview mirror, but he couldn't see anything in the back seat. The instructions had said not to loo. Kay directly at her, only in the mirror if necessary. Suddenly he felt a cold hand touch his. It was on his hand, the one holding the glass. The touch sent a shiver of ice right through him. The hand was like ice, completely lifeless. Then the hand closed around the glass, taking it from his grasp. As soon as the glass was taken, Richard started driving again. He just wanted to get out of there to see what would happen next. He glanced in the rearview mirror again, but the back seat was still empty. Richard drove on, his mind a whirlwind of questions. Would he really get to see Sarah? What do you reckon then? Will Richard get his wish? Or will his encounter with the headless woman of Blackwood Canyon Highway end in tragedy? Did he follow the instructions correctly? Or did he make a fatal mistake? Will the headless woman truly lead him to Sarah? You'll have to wait for the next part of the story to find out, won't you? I know, I'm leaving you in suspense. But trust me, the next chapter is where we'll discover what truly happened to Richard that night on Blackwood Canyon Highway. Did he get to speak to Sarah? Did he make it out alive? All will be revealed in the next installment. So, if you enjoyed this first part, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next bit. Ring that bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next video where I'll tell you exactly what happened to Richard. Did he complete the ritual? And what were the consequences? Did he return home, or did he become another ghost haunting Blackwood Canyon? All that and more in the next part of the story. Cheerio for now.